Hello, everybody. For the past several weeks, Leader Radogno and I have been talking about how to solve our problems of our state. It's been a very frank discussion, and we have a lot of realities to face. I think we in the Senate recognize the problems, and we are potentially close to an agreement on how to solve them, but we're not quite there. So our plan is to refile the bills that we filed today, and refile them on Wednesday when we start the 100th General Assembly. They would be quickly assigned to committees where we can get public input, and the goal to be to get them up on the floor and pass them over to the House. So I want to thank the Republican and Democratic members who've been involved in the work that we've had in the last few weeks. And I think that the only way we can solve our problems is to do it in a bipartisan fashion. And I've been very encouraged by the work that we've done so far. And I'm very optimistic, based on our caucus and our discussions, that we have a potential agreement, at least out of the Senate, and that's the best place to start. So thank you. I want to thank Senator Radogno for her help.
Well, and I would likewise like to thank Senator Cullerton. I do think progress has been made. We spent many, many hours over the holiday on the phone. Our staffs worked very, very hard and well together. One of the big takeaways from this is, for the first time, we're acknowledging that we really do need to link the reforms, the revenue, and the budget all together. Starting with that premise, we've made tremendous progress on areas of agreement. For us today, it wasn't so much about the votes. I mean, I think we will have votes on every piece of the package when it finally comes together. But there was some resistance to the lame duck aspect of this. We are often criticized for doing things too quickly. Several of our members just heard about it today. So they were reticent to go ahead and go on record voting for it, knowing that we're only talking about 2 days. But like the Senate President, I think that we need to act very expeditiously. This is not something that we're going to let drag on. Hopefully we set a hard deadline, and hopefully that's before February 1st. Happy to answer questions.
Was the governor on board, Leader Radogno?
The governor's public comments, I think, reflect where he actually is. He hasn't seen this kind of bipartisan discussion go on, and he's very pleased that that's happening. Obviously, he's reserving judgment until he sees the final package.
What's the sticking point? Why not today? Why couldn't you come together today?
Well, as I mentioned, our caucus in particular was reticent to vote on something in a lame duck, which would not become law, and some of them hadn't really seen all of the details.
Or is there some substantive issues also?
Primarily timing.
What's the speaker saying, President Cullerton? We've got very few session days in January. Are you looking at maybe after State of the State, or putting on some special session days?
No, we'll be in session, I believe, January 24th. That's when we anticipate these bills being heard in committee that week.
Now, if I'm a Democrat and I vote for a tax increase, at the end of the day, I'm going to be in a bad YouTube video yoked to the state.
You know, all these bills that we filed today were all drafted in such a way that they would not go into effect unless all of them took effect. So that's very important. This was not a tax increase. This is a budget. This is a budget package with reforms that Senator Radogno referred to. So that's the important point. And you all now can see all of these filed in a bipartisan fashion. You can read them and then analyze them in the next few weeks, and you'll see that as a whole, it's a package that primarily funds the rest of our fiscal year. The stopgap budget ended January 1st. We need to immediately fund it. That's probably the most immediate significant bill that we have in this package. There's also a way to pay for these things, and this is also important, and as Senator Radogno noted, there's a number of other items that we've worked through that are important, been classified as reforms. That's fine. However you want to classify them, they're important issues which we take up all the time, and we're addressing those as well in our package.
What changed your mind about how you go forward here? You've said over and over, actually for 2 years, the governor's going to have to set the new income tax rate level. You've been resistant to linking his reforms to the budget.
Yeah. Well, we're 2 years into this. We don't have a budget. It's an embarrassment for the state. There's some real damage that's already happened. We want to avoid that. Senator Radogno and I together feel that we've worked together in the past for the last 8 years. We got elected the same day. We've been here for 8 years. We've worked together many times, and we can do it again. So I don't know how we got off track, but this is where we're starting, and I think it's a good place to start.
What did the speaker say to you about
Why
this
was
package?
this done without the speaker and governor as part of it?
Well,
Are they the
it would be
problem?
premature because we first wanted to see if we can work on these tough issues in a bipartisan way in the Senate. It's hard enough to try to get all the senators to get together to pass such a major piece of legislation. We found that out, but we've made progress, and so we'll find out in early part of this month whether or not we can pass them.
And what about term limits? Is that a part of it?
Term limits for leaders will be a part of it. It will be a constitutional amendment that will limit the terms of leaders in all 4 caucuses going forward.
Also, it also has a term limit rule change in the Senate.
What about workers'
Bipartisan means the
compensation?
Republicans are going to vote on it.
Yes, it does. So, I mean, Republicans also realize what is going on is not good for the state right now. Everybody realizes that. That means there's going to have to be give and take. There's nobody that's going to like the entire package. In fact, I cautioned my caucus, you might want to turn off your phone because you're going to get inundated from people that don't like pieces of it. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to vote on what's good for the taxpayers in the state and what's good for the state of Illinois as a whole. And I think they're definitely buying into that. 2 years has made people really realize how bad it can be when we don't work together.
For 2 years, your members and Republicans have been saying, Democrats give us a plan, we need to vote on a plan, let's vote, let's vote, let's vote. And now you've given your caucus a plan that you agreed to, and they're reticent to do it.
They're reticent to do it in a lame duck session.
But you've been talking about these issues for 2 years.
Well, first of all, what we've said, and it's been reflected in the governor's comments as well, we are willing to consider revenue increases when there's some reforms that make sense. And that's what we've struggled with. We want to get the right balance of reform so that it's meaningful in order to have both parties be able to support a modest tax increase in order to help the state move forward.
What is the term limit, what is the term limits plan exactly? And does that mean that either of you are going to step down at all?
Means we can only stay here for 10 more years,
10 more years. Okay.
unless you'd like us to leave earlier.
And that may happen.
But you have no plans for that, okay.
President Cullerton, school funding formula changes, that's been in discussion, why not?
You know, we've been working together, bipartisan fashion on school funding reform changes, which would include pension parity for Chicago. We've had outside organizations working on the drafting, and we'd like to get that scored by the State Board of Education, and then introduce that legislation. And hopefully that will be ready by by the first week when we come back in the session.
You're also aware there is a school funding task force going on. Their work's not complete. We certainly wanted to hear what they have to say as well. So they may be able to have some input into that as well.
But that won't be significant changes to the workers' comp?
Yes, school funding will be linked to the rest of the package, as pension parity reform would
Everything's
be
linked.
part of it.
Will there be
Everything's-
significant changes to the workers' comp proposal? I'm hearing that it wasn't maybe properly put together.
Very close on workers' comp.
Yes.
Is the ASME contract linked?
No.
The AFSCME contract is not linked to this package. That's not under our control.
Okay, and another thing, people on both sides have talked a lot about the effect on the middle class, higher taxes is bad, or less worker compensation is bad. What effect does this have on the middle class? Can everybody agree that it's gonna be something good?
Well, I think having a balanced budget is a very positive thing for the state. I think having, from our point of view, or from many people's point of view, having an increase in the minimum wage hasn't been raised since 2006. I think an earned income tax credit increase is a very progressive way to deal with taxes. So, and there's probably some other examples where people are better off, especially in just having a fully funded appropriation levels, I think is very important as well.
As we're talking now, the House is voting on another stopgap budget. What is your reaction to that? Do you see that as a sign that the House does not have faith that this is going to go forward and therefore a stopgap is needed?
Perhaps they're not as advanced as we are in terms of cooperating on putting together a package.
So what do you make of that? Would the Senate be inclined to take that up in these last days of the lame duck session?
Well,
The stopgap measure?
Yeah, I'd be inclined to as quickly as possible, pass this package so that we can get this appropriation for the remainder of this fiscal year. So we don't think-
Clearly, the goal is to get a long-term plan. And the state is suffering by having the chaos that we have. So, to me, it's a far better long-term goal to get a plan that we can budget for FY '18 and beyond from. So stopgaps just don't cut it.
So are we trading off a partisan stalemate for a cameral one? You know, is that basically
You're so
what's happening?
pessimistic.
Yeah.
You know, I think the fact is that we have this significant, big package in a bipartisan fashion. Hopefully, we can pass it soon, and hopefully, it'll be something that the House would work with. And we each have 2 state representatives that they would have seen that we would have voted for something. It makes it a lot easier to pass a bill under those circumstances. And hopefully, it'll be showing them an example of how we can work this out.
And I think it's well known, there are certainly individual lawmakers on both sides of the aisle in the House that also want to see something get done for the long term.
Leader Radogno, the Republican Party has been pretty severe, at least online, attacking members of the House who want to raise taxes or be associated with Speaker Madigan. Does that hurt this process at all? Should they continue to do that every day between now and February 1st?
You know, honestly, I have not been a part of that. I am focused on a productive conversation, which I think the Senate President and I have had.
Do you think that detracts from a productive conversation?
I guess it's in the eye of the beholder. Honestly haven't paid that much attention to it.
And she will have the last word. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I was going to just. Whatever, we all have our things, sorry.
No, no problem.
I left my phone in my glasses.
Oh, God, yeah, I know.
Oh, there they are.
Yeah, I would really be in trouble.